Hi, and welcome to the 22nd episode of Keen Minds. I'm Jen, aka Takata Saiko.
And I am Tessa of Criminally Sane, and we are excited.
Yeah, we're going to go over Season 4, Episode 15, The Apothecary, and it is our winter finale for the Blacklist.
I love that episode. How about you?
I liked it really well. I think that I set expectations. I hate saying that I set expectations that didn't get met, because that makes it sound like the writing wasn't good, the acting wasn't. I set very different expectations than what it turned out to be, I suppose, is what I was expecting different things. I thought that there would be a huge reveal. I mean, and I guess you could say that there was, but I also think I think it's a fake huge reveal. Like, I expected Liz to find out that Red's her dad. Like, I expected that to come out and something like that. And so I expected that, and I also expected at least one very emotional scene between Red and Liz. And I didn't get that. We'll go over that more when we get to Liz, but so I don't want to say I was disappointed, because it's nothing that the writers or the producers or anything did wrong. It just, my expectations were different, so it was still a very good episode. I still very much liked the episode.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was a very good, solid episode. Make me remind me of that old movie DOA. I think it was maybe Dennis Quaid, the actor in it, in which a guy gets poisoned, and he knows that he has like 48 hours to find the murderer, and he's called dead on arrival because he's going to, and him trying to piece together what happened and who murdered him. And I think he also doesn't remember everything. So it's a great nod to a really good movie. And I loved it. I thought it was, I did lament the lack of an emotional reaction from a lot of them, but we got it from unexpected places.
That's true. I loved seeing Marvin Gerard come back. I was terrified, absolutely terrified. They were going to take Red to a very dark place in which he killed Marvin, and then the phone call came through. I just sat there on the edge of my couch going, "Don't do it, Red! You're about to find out! Don't do it! I know it's not Marvin!" And so, that terrified me in that moment. Thankfully, Red had the patience to not do that, because I think that would have just ripped him to shreds. If he pulled that trigger, Marvin was dead, and that phone call had come through, it wasn't Marvin. No matter
I think that I wasn't sure. I was pretty sure that he was not going to kill Marvin, because I think most of what Red wanted to understand was why he has done it. And I don't think that he would have killed him without finding that out.
And where Dembe was. He was looking for Dembe. And that's what he said to Marvin, is that he knew everything except for where Dembe was. And obviously why, because Marvin didn't do it. So yeah, I mean, we got to see a lot of characters some that we've seen recently, some we haven't. They brought back a lot of minor characters. We had I'm blanking on his name, but he's the
banker.
We had the banker. Yeah. We had the accountant. We had Glenn, of course. We heard Baz speak, which is huge. Who else did we have? There were a bunch of and then we basically got a peek into Red's organization. We hear about it, and Liz talked about it, I guess that was a couple episodes ago, where she said, with the shipping and everything, where she was like...
Yeah, how many do you have?
Yeah.
How many operations do you have?
She basically had this look on her, like, how far does this criminal empire of yours go? And it's a good question. The fandom has asked that several times, in which, how much is Red actually worth, and how far does this criminal empire go? We don't know. And so it was very nice to see a glimpse into his...
Yeah, and those were the 11 people that had access to that particular account. So that is not all of Red. That is not all of his organization, because I'm sure that, like anybody who's versant with the art of war, he would have kept things compartmentalized. The problem he faces now is because he thinks it's Dembe. I I bet that there are not that many places to hide and accounts that he can access that are not in Dembe's knowledge.
Well, when in Cape May, he was talking to Marvin on the phone, and he said Dembe has power of attorney.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and personally, I don't think it's Dembe. Like it would take. No, even if John Bokenkamp sat across from me and told me it was Dembe, I still wouldn't believe him because I would just assume he was spinning it.
And the accountants would have said that, would have said, hey, wait a minute, you gave the order. I have something signed here saying it's Dembe. Everybody seems to be saying, like, it came from your account, but nobody's saying who gave the order. So that seems to imply that it's not a person who gave the order, or if they did, they made it sound like it was Red. It, to me, more sounds like it's hacked.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I think it'll be really interesting with Dembe. One of the things that I noticed with Red was that, I mean, because like we were talking about earlier, he was trying to piece the thing together as he went. He obviously, his memories are super jumbled. Just kind of want to look at him and go, how do you think Liz feels? You know, have a taste of what Liz feels every day of her life. And you did that, buddy. But anyway, you know, with his memories jumbled and only having pieces of it to go off of, it's a very good possibility that Dembe dropped him off and Red said, go find such and such. Like, they knew who did it. And he just can't remember because the poison screwed with him. And so Dembe may very well have left on Red's orders to go chase down.
And he doesn't remember, or to make sure that somebody else is safe or something. It to me doesn't make any sense. Also, because there's other people that have knowledge of his organization that he may not know about it. We also have Mr. Kaplan. I don't think that Kate would have done that, because I don't think neither Kate nor Dembe would have endangered the people that have worked. They would not have done anything that cost Stratos, who was such a loyal friend, and Dembe was in a, bent out of shape because of, the danger and what finally happened to him. So I doubt that it would have been Dembe and Sarah, and I doubt that Mr. Kaplan would have done the same. I think she's not that person.
I'm blanking on who said it. It might have been Liz, but someone at the end of the episode, when it came out that they thought it was Dembe, said, he has access to Red all the time. Why would he poison him? Like, what's the point? He has no bars access to this man. Why poison him? Yeah.
I mean, at that point where he gives the alcohol, Red usually is armed, but not when he's around Dembe. And even if he was armed when he was sitting in that chair, he's probably in the back of his pants. And just take the gun, plug him in the head. That's it. Dispose of the body. Nobody will ever know what happens.
Or poison him and don't take him to the doctor. I mean, just, oops, Dembe was
out. Him in a
closet. Yeah. I mean, there are so many ways to do that. It's not even funny. And Dembe is a very smart man. We do know this. We are aware of this. He's a creative soul. If he were willing to off Raymond Reddington,
that was not the way to do it. Yeah. And spend all that money for nothing. I mean, if you're going to take that money, take the money for, and not spend it on an exotic poison. That to me tells me that the timeline is sort of important.
That's interesting.
There's something about not using a poison that is immediate, because there are so many poisons that are immediate. So I think that when you use a poison like that, we're using something because it allows some time to pass, which is, that the apothecary made poisons that would kill people, simulating that they had a heart attack or whatever condition. And he also made things that put people in coma. So there is something in all of this that speaks to me.
I don't think it's Dembe. You cannot convince me it's Dembe. Dembe is like a ROM. He has our precious cinnamon roll. There would be a revolt. Like, I mean, if nothing else, James went out of his way in season 1 to make sure that his Sham stayed on the show. I cannot imagine that he stayed on the show this long to become Raymond Reddington's would-be murderer.
No. Plus, it didn't make any sense. I mean, he could have done that without getting any innocent people killed, which is what he was worried about. Also, Red thinks that nobody else had access to the apartment, but that we don't know that to be true. That apartment was not Red. Somebody lived there before Red took over.
Well, that's probably true. Leonard Cole has access to that apartment. He's been there before.
But he wouldn't know about the finances, although he can hack probably anything.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, but I'm just saying that you're right.
Medical history.
People.
Yeah, it's who fits all those?
I'm not sure we've met them yet.
Yeah, because it has to be somebody with hacking abilities, somebody who knows Red's medical history, somebody who knows enough. They don't even need to have access to the account. They just need to be able to know the account exists.
I still think it's linked to Katarina. But I've also seen a theory running amok that it has to do with the Cabal, which would make sense. They would have people on retainer that could do all of this. They could find out medical history. They could find out... They could track it down if they wanted to. And so that does make sense, too.
Well, they had some medical history, but I do wonder about that. It was a very interesting episode. Can we talk about the apothecary himself? What a creeper!
Okay, so the roomie and I sat there, and he goes and he kisses his wife and lays down with her, and I said, okay, this is either really sweet or really scary. If she's sick and he's looking for a cure for her, that's super sweet. If he's holding her against her will, that's so creepy. And it was 500 times worse than I realized.
Oh my God, it was, and besides, my husband said, is that a straitjacket that she's wearing at night?
I don't think so. I think it was just a gown.
Oh, but it did look weird.
He was so nuts. And that last line about even from prison, we can be a family. I'm just going, no. She's going to take that child far away from you.
Yeah. If she has a child, that child is going to go into a close adoption that nobody would know.
Yeah.
I bet she's going to tell, oh, no, I had a miscarriage or something of the sort, and, the baby died.
Why would she have to tell him anything? She's not going to ever see that man again except on his trial. I mean, I would stay so far away from him, it's not even funny. He was creepy. This could be one of our creepiest blacklisters yet.
I would put him right with the giant in the woods that skinned people and the stew maker. Right there.
I honestly, I think it's probably the more personal level, because I mean the stew maker and I'm blanking on his name, but the one that wrestler Matthew. Both of them had. I mean, and this guy definitely had some sort of weird, creepy disconnect, but, I mean, he was off in La La Land of thinking he was fixing his marriage. Honey, go to a counselor, don't drug your wife and rape her. No, absolutely not.
Yeah, that doesn't go in the normal books.
No, but Matthew and the stew maker both had relationships. They weren't necessarily consensual relationships, maybe that's how I should put it. The stew maker was married, had a son. I mean, you didn't get the impression they were very close, particularly, because, I mean, he wandered off to his stew-making activities. But there was nothing wrong there. He wasn't holding her against her will. He wasn't tossing her into a pot, boiling her.
I got another one. The Cypress Agency.
There you go.
That would qualify, yeah. And he was doing the same thing on a grand scale.
Yeah, he was. You're right. You're exactly right. Gosh. Oh. Yeah. That one really creeped me out. And, I mean, that's...
that scene where he takes the t-shirt and he's kind of looking sexy and it just, the whole thing was oh man, I mean, this is...
It was so bad on the rewatch because I knew he was creepy. The first time through, like I said, I'm going, I don't know if you're sweet or creepy, so I can't make a judgment yet. Rewatch, I knew, and yeah.
The tears on the wives were yeah, no, this does not look good.
And that's what I said when she was crying. I'm like, this doesn't look like a good thing. But maybe she's just really sick, you never know. And then he's talking about how has to keep her sedated, and I'm going, never mind. Nope.
Yeah. I cannot trust you to not run away. Okay.
Oh boy.
Yeah. You need marriage counseling
Oh.
from jail.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So it was. I thought it was a great blacklister. You
Oh,
know.
he was fantastic. He's just creepy as hell. I mean, that's what it boils down to.
And I noticed that the name Hightower, a rook in chess, it's basically a high tower.
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting more chess games, and I'm always get excited. We got Knightley recently, so it's we got King. Hey,
And we'll
King.
we'll go over it, and we're doing a
Yeah.
separate podcast for Redemption. But there was also a chess game being played in Redemption that I spotted and thought of you, Tessa.
Yeah. Yay! So that is really awesome. I love when we get these little symbols that they, get my juices going.
Okay, so creepy apothecary. Moving on from him. How about Donald Wrestler?
I love Wrestler in this episode. I know that he didn't have a lot to do, but I like the fact that despite he read so much, he was still willing to do his job and do it well and get things done timely to save him.
Think back to Ansel Garrick. I mean, he took a bullet, not just a bullet, but a shotgun, you know.
Yeah, that was nasty.
I mean, he nearly lost his leg. Apparently, the writing team talked about having Wrestler lose his leg in season 1. I read an interview at one point. But he's almost back to season 1 with, I hate you, but I'm going to do my job. And so that's very Wrestler.
I also, for whatever is worth, I don't have that excellent reading on that scene yet. I would have to watch it, 2-3 times to be absolutely certain. I thought that there was a slight personal concern. Despite everything, they're like really the dysfunctional family. Wrestler may not be happy with Red and doing his bidding and all that, but I think there is concern.
I would agree. I mean, death is kind of final. I mean, even in, real death, not fake death, obviously, but, I mean, if you're watching someone, hack themselves to death because they've been poisoned in front of you, I mean, it was pretty obvious that Red was not faking anything. And so, yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that with Ress, no, he doesn't want to be doing his bidding, no, he doesn't want to be basically on his payroll, but he's not going to wish death on the man either.
I also like the scenes there's a couple of interrogations, and I thought that him and Liz were working really well together.
I loved the one with he and Brooklyn, or
Yes.
them against Brooklyn. I mean, they had her tied up and twisted up so fast. They were just fantastic together.
That was a great scene. I love them because they were both reading each other very well, and this woman was just like trampling all over her feet. She was like, she was falling like she was tied down.
They knew exactly what they needed to say to make her say what they needed her to say. Yeah, and it was great.
Yeah, I really like that. So they were really short because this episode was really read, and but I love the way that everybody else had little scenes and they were great.
Aram had one of the best reactions. Sounds terrible. Had one of the best reactions to Red dying. But it's just no. It's like Aram said no. Sorry, Red, you're not allowed to die. The cinnamon roll has spoken.
He was so. I actually felt that Liz, I think, was kind of like had a very strange reaction, and we'll talk about her. But I thought that him and Samar were really afflicted by it. They were affected by Red's predicament.
Yeah, I think Samar was very emotionally invested this entire time. I mean, when she walked in with the I'm blanking on his name, it starts with a P, but the basically the
Pianetti, I think.
Pianetti, I think was his name.
Yeah.
When she walked, I mean, just the way she spoke to him was, it's like she was. It was personal to her. And I think it's because they were on such a time crunch with this,
Mm-hmm.
And these people have been working with Red for what? I mean, somewhere
3 years.
Yeah, 3 years at this point. It's, the time scale kind of shifts and changes when they need it to, but it's around 3 years, and you're going to get emotionally attached. Regardless of who you are, even if you're, the badass Mossad agent, you're going to get emotionally attached.
And Red had saved them all.
Yeah. Multiple times.
Red had saved Samar, Red had saved Wrestler, saved a few times, Samar a few times. Aram, not personally in a danger, but he would have been accused of being the mole. So I think that, even though the interrogation was well, to the point of a gun.
Don't look so stricken. The first bullet will kill you. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, Red.
That's a great scene.
You love that scene. Just admit it. It's okay.
I do. It's just like Aram. I mean, it was like Aram's favorite one. And how about Cooper? Oh, the gift basket. We have to talk about the gift basket.
I was gonna bring a bottle of wine, but then I realized that he'd been potentially poisoned with wine. And just leave it to Aram to think about that. He doesn't seem like a flowers person. I'm just like, you precious, precious man. No one else has done this. No one thinks about this. It's Aram. I mean, and granted, he's head over heels for Samara, but Aram's the one that goes and sits in the hospital with people. He goes and he genuinely cares about each and every person. Mm-hmm. And when Dembe was being let in, in handcuffs in season 3, hi Dembe. He legitimately cares for everybody that he works with, and not just on a superficial level. It's so deep with him. It's beautiful.
And he said, I to Liz and gave her a hug when she came in chains, and everybody was turning their backs on her because she's supposed to be a dirty cop.
Yep.
So it was really, Aram is he's the heart of the show, and I again, short scenes but to the point. The essence of what the writers, I think, wanted to say was said in very short scenes. Loved it.
Yeah. And so Cooper's was interesting. He had a comment in there that said something like, there's nothing wrong with wishing the best even for the worst, or something along those lines. It's not verbatim.
The worst of us, yeah.
The worst of us. And I was just like, good grief, Coop, And like, I keep switching back and forth personally, because sometimes I feel like he's really hard. Like, he's been pretty steady, but you get emotionally invested in the episode, and you're like, just give the man a break. He just nearly died. Could you not take a swipe at him right now? He just lost a friend. Could you not take a swipe at him right now?
I think that for Cooper, the turning point seemed to have been Kirk.
Oh, I agree.
Red letting go Kirk set him off in a bunch of wrong directions. It sent the wrong message for him. I'm sure that there is something else going on with Panna Baker in some pressure, because remember, by now we have this other president that also is in Red's pocket. So things have to have shifted a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm sure it makes Cooper uncomfortable to know that Red has something over the current president. I mean, it's got to be an uncomfortable spot to be in, to know.
Yeah.
And not be able to do anything about it.
So something going on with Cooper, but I noticed that even then he was then doing this job, and I think that he cares for the man. I have a feeling that in Cooper's case, it's almost like he's upset. Cooper has got to the point where he needs to understand what Red is doing.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think that Cooper will be better once Red finally divulges something. Yeah. Kind of
gives
like
him
Liz.
Something.
Kind of like Liz. And so, I guess that leads us into Red and Liz, because, it's...
Yeah.
I found it fascinating that Red never once questioned Dembe.
Yes.
Honestly, that was probably my biggest clue through the whole thing, that they were going to point the arrow at Dembe, was the fact that Red was so adamantly against it. Now, at one point, I thought maybe Dembe had been kidnapped, and that's
Mm-hmm.
where he was. But honestly, that's probably just because I did not want Dembe to have anything to do with it, and I still don't think he
Well,
did.
yeah, I think that they also made so many overt clues that they were like, hammer on the head twice. So, I mean, do you really have to, when you show me the picture of Red and he's talking, you see Rembe in the back, you see Rembe and Dembe, and they like linger on Dembe pouring the whiskey for Red. There was, and they've been doing this for 2, 3 episodes. I mean, overtly, it's not like the subtle clues that we get in the Blacklist. This is like, hey, here you go, and because that's not enough, let me just hit you again. Um, uh, yeah, the concern of Red was, while you try to save my life, I'm going to save Dembe's life.
Yeah,
That was beautiful, and I think Red considers Dembe like a child, and this is as devastating as if Liz were to do it. Even more because Liz doesn't have the benefit of knowing everything. Well, Dembe does.
agreed. I definitely agree. And I do wonder because you had everything so PC and he has huge blanks in his memory because of the poison and how it affected him. I do wonder if it's possible that he and Dembe knew who it was. They found the guy or the gal that's responsible. And as Dembe was dropping him off, he said, go find this person, sent Dembe out on the mission, but now he just doesn't remember. I will say that this episode made me absurdly paranoid of everybody that came within Red's orbit. I didn't trust
The doctor?
the doctor I really didn't trust. And then the Lulu that came up, which very cool thing I didn't realize until after. I had heard that there was a member of the fandom that had recently passed away. I didn't know the details. I did not
Yeah, I
know her.
remember that they asked the writers to name a
Yeah,
character for her as a
and
posthumous.
they did, and apparently Lulu was named after her, which is super cool of the writers. Like that's I don't think just every writing group will do that. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's really impressive. So I'm really glad that. Obviously, I'm really glad that Lulu was trustworthy. I found it a little odd that the character had been tossed into the back of a trunk and then became so helpful. I'm not sure just anybody would have.
I think that goes to who Red is, because Red is a caring person. He can be lethal, and he can be, he've killed many people, men and women, that he deemed to be worthy of killing without a thought about it. But Red is also a decent person in many ways. And, um, even the woman said you were polite about it, telling me that we had to come in the trunk with me. It was very funny to me, and I love that shows an aspect of Red that we haven't seen lately. That caring Red, that you know
Well,
the echoes of a naval officer.
yeah, and he's always like that. It's really sweet. I mean, he was the entire time with her, and he was very polite and very. I mean, yes, he was asking for her help and things, and sometimes coercing help from her, but. I loved her reaction of, could you not point, could you be careful with that thing? Could you not? Because he's just waving the gun around.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, the poor man's coughing himself half to death.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not all there. He's not thinking straight. And he really is just waving that thing
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. And this woman's going, oh my gosh.
I wouldn't be surprised if eventually we learned that there was a large check that was sent to this woman, or a beach house, all paid, and property taxes paid for the next 20 years.
As long as he remembers her.
Mm.
I mean, that memory kind of got spotty. But yeah, something interesting that you brought up before we started recording on the podcast was the fact that this is the second time that he's called Liz's name on death's door.
Yes, and only Liz, because she didn't make reference to any other name.
Hmm? Just who is Elizabeth?
Yeah. So it means that if he still loves Katerina, which I think he does, he either thinks her dead or he thinks her unworthy and feels betrayed by her.
Yeah, and I mean, it's Liz. It's his Lizzie, and so
Yeah.
I love that. I love that that's a constant. I love that no matter how betrayed Red feels on his end, no matter how much has gone between them, that chasm that you can still feel between them.
Mm-hmm.
He loves her so deeply, and it goes to the core of the show. It's really beautiful.
It's a family is a family love story.
Hmm. Yeah, Megan
I
called it a love story, and she was right. It's a bunch of different types of love.
hmm I one of the most interesting things about Red was this is the second time that he's been talking about him feeling death come or talking about knowing that he's going to die. Except the previous time he said that he was with Baldur and he was telling him about knowing death. Third time. What is
Third
the
time.
third?
At the meeting at it was early 3B. I always forget the name of that episode. Um,
Oh, Shell Island retreat.
yeah, at the Shell Island
Okay.
retreat.
Okay.
That he says, tell our friends in hell I'll be along shortly. So yeah, third time.
Mhm. And he has always obviously he has a medical team and he wants to survive but he tells Baldur that he's a he told Dom at that point that he didn't know how to go forward, right? So at the time when he thought Liz dead, he was looking for a way forward, a way to live without Liz, without pain. Then with Baldur, he's talking about feeling death creeping at him from the corners of the room and not knowing if it's there for him or is echoes from the past. And now he's telling Lulu that he's lived this long with a corona of death and now finds that he is not unwilling to go gentle into the good night.
I loved that. Just
Beautiful
going,
line.
Spader. Oh, that man. He has a way with words.
He does.
He's very good with that. It takes a special kind of actor to be able to monologue well. I mean, monologues they're difficult, especially lengthy ones, and he never fails on a monologue.
No, they were spot on. But that was a very interesting thing because that means that something has changed him from a man who didn't care about death. And he, in that scene that they rob us with Tom, the one that I keep hammering and hammering about.
From the season 3 outtakes, yes.
Yeah. He tells Tom that the reason he has been able to do what he has done is because it doesn't matter if he doesn't come back. He's always can go out and do whatever needs to be done because he knows that if he doesn't come back, nothing changes. Nobody depends on him. So this is interesting. That means that having Agnes in Liz's life is change his fundamental view of the world. And that is the reason why he's not seeing things, because I always say that he is tired. He wants to go home. And since I believe that he's running a very long undercover mission, the cover is starting to crack, like what happened to Tom. Because he's being loved, he had affection, he has had time, he has seen his granddaughter. Whether he's a biological granddaughter or not, at this point, I don't care. It makes no difference because that's a relationship he considers Liz to be his daughter.
Yeah. And so, I mentioned it at the beginning of the podcast. One of the things that kind of broke my heart about the episode that I was really looking forward to was an updated version of what we saw in season 2. When Red was shot in season 2, they were, Liz had just found out that Red had hired Tom. She was pissed. And he gets shot, and they still have this gorgeous moment with her by his bedside with, the bloody hands, and it's a very beautiful moment. It's a very touching moment. And even though she's angry at him when he's being carted off, like when he's on death's door, 3.
We have a third one. Go, and I'll go.
Okay, but when he's on death's door, there's just that worry and that fear, and I didn't feel that sense of urgency and connectedness in this episode. And I'm not saying it was anything wrong with what people were doing. I feel like that's where Liz is right now, and that really kind of breaks my heart because I was hoping, in the same way that I was hoping when Dembe came to her door and said, he doesn't care about anybody but you, I was hoping that maybe she would choose to try to reach out in a kinder fashion to him. I keep wanting Liz to soften to Red.
I have some thoughts on that subject, but I wanted to bring out the third time that Red had been in what Liz thought was death door, which is in Luther Braxton, and he's unconscious, and he's like, "Wake up, breathe, you son of a bitch."
Yeah.
And at that point, I think that she was concerned. Oh, there's a fourth one. There you go.
There's a fourth one. I just thought about it. At the end of 4A with Kirk, because they go and all they have is the hat. And when he comes in and she gives him that awesome hug.
And she picks up the hat.
That's what I've been waiting for. That kind of moment. I mean, because she's still ticked at him there. But he's alive, and she sees it, and she's excited, and she's happy, and she hugs him. Even though an episode later, she's still frustrated with him, and she's saying, well, maybe someday you can come see Agnes. You still know there's that affection. And maybe the scene got cut, maybe there is a scene, and it just got cut for time, I don't know. But I was really hoping for a by the bedside, gripping the hand, let me tell you something that I wouldn't tell you otherwise, but I'm about to die kind of moment,
I feel that I was kind of hoping for it, but looking in retrospect to where Liz has been, I think I'm happy they didn't do it. And this is going to sound weird and not make me very popular. But I said I'm excited because I think we're going to get a big reveal, basically because I just wanted canon, not because I wanted the gushy scene. I wanted canon.
I like gushy scenes. I'm okay with admitting that.
Yeah. They make me uncomfy. I hate seeing them in movies. I like them in person, but not in movies.
I'm still waiting on my freaking kiss between the Keens that hasn't happened since, like, mid-season 3. These people have been married, and this is not about Liz's romantic relationship, and I think that's why we haven't gotten it, but I was really hoping for it before he left for Redemption. So.
Well, I think that is because we've had the focus of the Blacklist is family, and it's not being about the romance. We got romance, we got the boat. Now it's about being the family, and their life has not been very normal. I mean, they're they have a kid. It's, lack of sleep can do a lot,
4 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a funny thing in Modern Family. I don't know if you watch Modern Family, but there is they're there and they have a baby and the kid is out and suddenly they're, somebody's taking the kid and they look at each other and says, oh my God, the kids are out. We're alone and we got like 3 hours. Nobody knows where we are. And you think, oh, they're going to go. They're going to have a romantic scene or sex or whatever. No, let's have a nap. Yeah. So there's an element of that kind of rings true.
I can totally see that with the Keens.
and also because, remember, she's saying about the nanny. By the way, we mentioned we have a Carly that takes care of
that's in Redemption,
Agnes.
Though. Yeah, that's in Redemption.
Yeah. But just wanted to mention because that applies to.
That's fair. Yes.
Yeah, applies to Agnes, that everybody worries if she's going to become a Hudson.
It's okay. She's okay. We don't know what happened to Hudson. I'm of the opinion that Kate was going to get Hudson to Cuba with them, and someone's taking care of Hudson, but nobody knows where he is because only Kaplan knew.
Maybe maybe Hudson is a spy dog.
Oh, I think Hudson's
maybe that's why he goes undercover and changes identities and looks different. But definitely, one of the things is like I think that Liz is getting very tired, she's physically and emotionally tired. I mean, she has a baby to contend now. And she's talking about the nanny redemption, like, oh my God, maybe we can get a nanny and go on vacation, and the nanny will take care of Agnes, will stay with Agnes. So I think that she's getting that burn that most mothers feel, like, if that rings true, she's like, okay, whoa, this is tiring,
Which is not a knock to Liz. At any rate, I mean, she's working a full-time job, plus, she probably works well over the normal hours a week, and then she comes home and kiddo's screaming at all hours of the night, and, I mean, even if Tom gets up with the kid so she can sleep, if Agnes is screaming in the room right next to theirs, it's not a huge apartment. Yeah, I mean, I think she is exhausted.
Yeah. There is an exhaustion level. There is a different level of frustration that we have seen building up in Four Seasons. This time, she thought Kirk was her father. Red tells him he's gone, doesn't tell him what happens to him, doesn't tell her anything, doesn't tell her about your mother, doesn't tell her absolutely nothing. And yes, we can put things together, and Liz should be putting them together, but I think at this point Liz is feeling a level of exhaustion, and she was just at the point where she was starting to embrace Tom's attitude of, oh well, you know what, let the past go. I don't need the past, we need the future. We're the future, let's think about it. At that point,
his
Tom's
past comes up.
Father. Yeah. And
but the
so
thing is,
she's like, bam, back in there.
She's hopped 500% on board with this. Let me see what I can track down for you. And so she's focusing on his, probably so she doesn't have to focus as much on hers.
Yeah. And Liz is, for somebody, I was thinking about that the other day. If somebody had taken your memories and you don't know what happened, and I suspect that Liz, she describes herself in episode 1 as being narcissistic, being self-involved, that her colleagues in general do not like her too much. I think that for somebody who have a pretty good idea that she probably did something bad.
Yeah.
And it must be terrifying. In truth, is what she needs, because it's what she doesn't have.
Yeah, and it's also going back to the what if the reality is worse than anything I've ever come up with in my head. Because every time that something like this pops up, like Kirk was terrible. Like, I'm kind of half surprised that, I mean, obviously it has to further the storyline, but, like, if I were Liz and Tom's family popped up and been like, I understand what you want. If you really need that, then that's okay, but I really don't want another Kirk situation. We just did this.
Yeah, it's a terrifying, exhausting roller coaster that Liz had been in there. And I think at this point she had despair that Red is going to tell her anything because she asks. I think that is because she hasn't asked the right question, because Red is not going to lie to her. So she hasn't asked the right question. Kirk finally did, probably because he was tired of asking the same question, because that must have been like 2 hours since the moment, because it's an hour since they get the woman, the patient 0. So she, Kirk had been asking, are you her father, for an hour. So finally he shifted and said, is she your daughter? Probably just out of being exhausted.
But anyway, Liz, all that to say that Liz's reaction to Red being on death's door, maybe it makes a little more sense than my emotional reaction was giving it. Yeah. So like I said, I like gushy scenes. I like those deep emotional scenes. I'm a fan.
And I wanted canon. I wanted a reveal, but yet, remember when I did a post a while ago, I said, I just got a huge clue. I don't expect a big one in a while. So, in a way, yes, I was hoping that a death scene would bring it, but I kind of knew. They just gave us a huge one, even if it was not recognized by many people. But I'm okay. I think that it makes sense, however disappointed I am.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's fine. It makes sense. I kind of, like, and I will feel that much better when they do finally reconcile and get on the same page. But it just, sometimes I'm impatient. Sometimes I just want it now. I just gotta be patient.
And we've got some spoilers that point out to several scenes from the past, so we'll get them.
Yep.
It's just, we got to be patient. This wasn't the proper episode, and I like the fact that we stayed with Red.
Yeah, we saw a lot of Red. I mean, this is probably, I haven't run numbers or anything. This is just gut reaction here. This is probably the most Red-centered episode next to Kate May.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think so.
And so with Liz, I had two favorite scenes of hers. The first was the smashing the guy with the stool. Have you ever tripped over one of those at night? And so, immediately I was talking to a friend over Tumblr chat, and I said, that's gonna be a one-shot. And she goes, oh, I was hoping you'd say that. Just flatten themselves,
Yep.
Because in Redemption, one of the first scenes you see is Tom tripping over a squeaky toy while he's got Agnes in his arms. He's like, ah! And so, that's kids. Things are everywhere. It's just chaos because, especially if kids are sick or kids are, cranky at night, whatever the case, things are everywhere. And frazzled parents Yeah, and frazzled parents are trying to work and take care of kids and all the things. And so, yeah, Liz is probably... Hopefully she hasn't thrown it at anybody, but, she does throw coffee cups. Who knows?
Well, she's gone a long way. If you really think about it, when is the last time she did something violent is when she punched Rostov in the mouth, and boy, did he deserve that one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, she has gotten a lot better. I still, the coffee cup comment still is one of my favorites, because I just have this mental image of Tom snarking at her, just getting tired of something that's going on and just popping off, and her just turning around, not letting herself have a moment to talk herself out of it, and just hurling the coffee cup at him, and going, holy crap, I'm about to die.
The coffee cup that he lovingly made her.
Probably. God. Oh, Tom.
Because you have to add the injury too.
Oh, season 1, Tom.
Yeah, that was, I like that. And what's the second scene?
Is, that jerk, Robert Dahl. I think was his name. Dolly? It was Dolly. Dolly.
Yeah, Dolly.
So, because the whole time, he seems like just the sweet husband. I know he was wearing plaid. He
was wearing plaid. I knew it as soon as he came up. He wasn't a sweetheart. I knew he had done it.
I'm just watching him give his mother and father-in-law coffee, and then he's been out there the whole time. I'm going, oh, you poor guy. I'm so sorry for you. Your wife is dying, and there's nothing you can do. And then they go into the house with the search warrant, and I love how Wrestler just takes that search warrant and drops it into the tub. It was just, when Wrestler's 500% done
he's
with
done that. He did that with Solomon in the cup, in the glass of water.
Sorry, that's not readable. No, but when he's done with someone, he's 500% done. He just gives no cares whatsoever. And I love him when he gets to that point, because he's just like, oh, I'm sorry, did I drop that? And you're like, really, Rez? I love you. But just, you get a complete change in the guy, that he's the sweet, loving husband that's just so worried about his wife when he's at the hospital, and he's lounging at their mansion in his little bubble bath, and when they come in, he stands up, and Liz just rolls her eyes, and she's like, unless you want to do your perp walk like that, I suggest you put some clothes on.
I loved it.
I love you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was a great moment. But I did know that there was that Helen Daly had not been poisoned by Panetti. I knew it was her husband. It was her husband. It was the parents' instance. The parents struck me as being all right.
They weren't wearing plaid. It was fine.
Well, it's not usually the wearer. It doesn't have. Let me put that way. It doesn't have to be the wearer, but just the fact that you got plaid in the situation tells you something is not as it is. So therefore, the parents seem genuine, and the guys talk about going to, oh, by the way, Sarasota Springs for the wedding anniversary, and I said, oh, no. Plaid and Sarasota Springs for a romantic weekend alone? No.
You gotta wonder, like, people, if they were to ever tune into us, never watching the show, and we're going, Plaid, water, he's the villain, and they're probably like, wait, what? How did you get there?
Yeah, I have two. I have one more. When Red is at the gym, he has flags around him. I know it's a gym, but he has a flag and one thing saying "No pain, no gain." And every time I look at that, I think, yeah, Red is an undercover agent working a long mission, because that was the first time we saw him in front of the FBI. Then we had a big close up of him with Philip Newton respectfully standing in a flag in the distance. Then he kneels on top of the FBI seal. Again, they put him flag in the distance. And then at the end of episode, he's sitting under the FBI seal with two agents at his side. Boy, I mean, they cannot hammer you more in the head.
I don't know, maybe. I'm more on board with that than the theory that Tom is undercover as, a CIA operative.
We'll talk about that one.
I disagree with that one pretty wholeheartedly. So...
Hey, you've come a long way into Carla is one of Katerina's names, so...
You keep dragging me into that one. Like, I keep trying to put the brakes on, and you keep just, like, inching me. It's like, here, let me offer you candy to come a little closer,
Yeah.
Bribing me into it.
Hey, every season I have to discard a few. I was telling Jen how this is the longest I've held to a theory in its entirety for the 4 years of the Blacklist. So I'm pretty happy. I'm a happy camper.
Well,
anything else you want to add on the Oh, I wanted to say the fact that Red was poisoned and the Apothecary was contacted via the dark web tells me I'm not sure that Dembe or Mr. Kaplan. I'm thinking that there's somebody's hacking in there. I hope it's not around though.
Oh, it's not a ROM.
I know, but I'm saying I just hope. But somebody with hacking abilities can do that.
I think it's one of two people. This is me putting it out on the air here. I think it's either Katerina getting his attention, or it's this is not my own theory. I've seen this floating around. So I don't know where it originated from. So kudos to whoever it originated with. But the Cabal. The Cabal's a very good option in my opinion because they've got the finances. They've got and Red is technically running them right now, so he may not think about it. So they've been known to turn on their people before. Alan Fitch died. They didn't seem to care. The director was killed. They had Solomon killed.
Yeah,
like they just don't care. They're like, oh, you're in our way. You used to be our leader. Tough rocks, Let me put a bullet in your face. They're not the most trustworthy lot. They really aren't.
The other option could be that Mr. Kaplan was taken by somebody who's threatening to hurt Liz and Agnes. Or her family or whoever, and she's at that point having to choose between somebody that she loves very much and Red.
And that's a possibility. I could see that. I could accept that. I cannot, as it stands right now, accept the idea that Kate is going after him out of spite. Yes,
especially with innocent people in the way.
Yeah, yes, he shot her in the face. I understand that, but I would be pissed to high heavens over it. She's a different soul. I mean, she's not a normal person. She's a cleaner for a living. And so when she was talking to the guy in the woods and everything, she never once sounded like she was angry at him. It was just kind of he didn't get it. It was more sad than angry.
Yeah. I agree. It doesn't strike me also as she would not have targeted Small and Stratus and his wife. It just doesn't sound right.
Exactly.
Same as with Dembe. I mean, Dembe is constantly with Red. If he wanted to kill the man, put a bullet in the back of his head instead of serving him the whiskey. It would have worked just the same.
Or don't take him to the doctor after poisoning him. I mean, it's... Yeah, I don't. Not Dembe, not Kaplan. I think it's either going to be some form of Katerina or the Cabal, or maybe kind of both, because I still think that I'm still under the impression that Katarina and possibly even the Hargraves were linked to the Cabal at some point.
I also think there is a possibility that this is the next big bad.
Oh yeah.
Because when I looked at there's a number of people for the longest time. Red had no idea who was coming at him and how did he know his businesses or anything. And still with Berlin, there are two questions that, in my view, remain unsolved, which is, why did Berlin never touch Liz? Because if he wanted revenge on Red, all he had to do is just take Liz prisoner, and Red would have just gone. And we saw it with Rostov. And the second thing, so that tells me that in the parameters of somebody telling Berlin information, not hurting Liz was one of them.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, how did Berlin find out about Tom's contract? How did he know to go to the major? There gotta be a few of this organization. So he went to the major and found Tom. Because Tom obviously didn't know who the enemy was. So how could Tom would have gone? He was working for Red. If he had managed to find that out, it didn't matter what he would have done. He would have gone to Red and say, I'm sorry, but you know what I got for you? I got the guy who's after you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Red would have been, all right, honey, just leave Liz alone and we're good.
That's Red's mantra. Just leave Liz alone. Just leave her alone and we'll be okay.
Of course he wouldn't have done it, but that makes no sense. So to me, that points out to somebody else out there manipulating the strings.
Agreed.
And somebody sent I've never been too convinced that actually Fitch sent the bones to Berlin. I think that he did point out Red as being the culprit, but the bones is a different kind of spite. That takes years. He received them for years. So that speaks to me of a hatred beyond what Fitch had for taking information about the Cabal. That's personal.
Yeah. No, I definitely think there's someone out there that's huge. And so I guess we'll find out.
Yep.
And so I think that's about it. Do you have anything else to add?
I do not. And I think we are going to also record a podcast on the Redemption. So stay with us. It will be posted separately so people can also have a time to go and have something to eat or whatever. And then we'll delve into Redemption.
Yep, and I love it. Redemption was awesome. But you can catch us on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. That's where we post, and you can leave comments on Facebook, Twitter, or Tumblr, and you can leave them on all of them if you'd like.
Mm-hmm.
We love to hear from you guys. We love to hear the chatter and the responses and how you like the podcast, and any thoughts that you want to share, feel free. Until, until, if you're joining us for Redemption, until a few minutes from now. All
yeah,
right.
Otherwise, until the
8
week
weeks?
after the 20th. Well, 9 weeks. Well, yeah, 8 weeks until we post our review.
Yep. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.